So, if you're an OG, you'll probably remember about 5 years ago, I made a career mode series on FIFA 20 with Crystal Palace. And in about 3 seasons, I put together one of the most disgusting attacks you will ever see. We had Wilfried Zaha, Brahim Diaz, Ricardo Orsolini, if you know, you know, Iñaki Williams, and Ousmane Dembele. It's FIFA, okay? Nothing's realistic in this game. That Palace side won both the Premier League and Old Big Ears, but there was one trophy they never actually won that the actual Palace would. I'm getting a little too ahead of myself with this story though. Before we continue on though, you're not going to want to skip this part, because I am bringing back something that you guys have been begging for. And that is the segment where we show what people are eating during my videos. But it's not just going to be a segment this time around, it's going to be a standalone video. And to have a chance to feature in this standalone video, all you gotta do is post on my subreddit, r/redditwell. Also, please make sure to post under the food flare, because that makes it a lot easier for me to actually organize this stuff. I'm gonna also bring back the Reddit videos in the near future, but first, we're gonna start with the standalone video and then go from there. Throughout the first half of the 2023-24 season, Crystal Palace were a shattered mess sitting in 15th after 24 games. What was kind of mind-boggling though was the fact they were only 7 points above danger with one of the worst attacks despite having talents like Eberechi Eze and Michael Olise. Changes were most definitely needed, and even manager at the time Roy Hodgson knew, as he would step down from the role after falling ill during a training session. In his place came Oliver Glasner. The Austrian manager had led Frankfurt to a historic Europa League title 2 years prior, but was not satisfied with the club's ambitions when it came to building upon that success. So as a result, he left the club just 1 season later. Glasner began his Palace tenure with a stellar 3-0 win versus Burnley, but it didn't look great after that. The Eagles went on a 5-game winless run that included a draw to a team who placed right outside a geezer's kitchen. However, just when everyone was starting to write off Oliver Glasner, his team went the last 7 games of the season unbeaten. 6 of them wins. I will beat you all with hammers. And these weren't just measly little traffic cones. Palace beat Liverpool, Newcastle, and annihilated both Man United and Aston Villa. This all resulted in the Eagles climbing up to 10th on the final day. Going into the next season, everyone was taking in the Crystal Palace hopium for 24-25. But we mustn't forget, this is Crystal Palace we're talking about here. The weight of reality will inevitably crush them from above. And that most definitely disorientated Palace's hopium momentum, as the team won just one of their first 12 games, placing them 19th. Nevertheless, Oliver Glasner finally got things figured out, and Palace would go the rest of the season losing just 5 times and finished a respectable 12th place. But things were even better in Palace's FA Cup run. They kicked it off, narrowly beating Stockport County in the first round, then the Eagles snatched victory away in Doncaster. Palace followed that up by beating the Ku Klux Klan pretty comfortably in the 5th round. From there, the difficulty started to ramp up, but that didn't really faze Oliver Glasner's men. The team made easy work of Fulham in the quarterfinals, stunned many after putting 3 past Villa in the semis, and then capped it all off by upsetting Manchester City to win the club's first ever major trophy. This was easily the greatest day in Crystal Palace's long history. But we mustn't forget, this is Crystal Palace we're talking about here. The weight of reality will inevitably crush them from above. After a couple of exceptional seasons, Eberechi Eze was snatched away by his boyhood club, and Palace was left with 60 million and a hole in the middle of their team. Not to mention, the sporting director who brought in stars like him and centre-back Mark Gahey had left last March. And on top of all of this, despite the FA Cup winners typically earning a spot in the Europa League, Palace was banished to the Conference League because UEFA doesn't allow more than 1 club owned by the same person in each tournament. Well, unless you're Girona, because City Football Club has a bunch of fuck you money. But going from the Europa League to the Conference League meant Palace would earn less money in the European competitions. Despite this all, however, Oliver Glasner and Palace continued to thug it out. With the utilization of other players like Daichi Kamada and new signing Yeremy Pino, the Eagles exceeded all expectations, and by December, they were in the top 4. However, by this point as well, the injuries were starting to pile up, the depth was absolute dog shit, which led to the club's form spiraling into a 7-game winless run. This included a historically disastrous FA Cup first round loss to a non-league Macclesfield Town, who were 117 places below the reigning champions. Around that same time too, star centre-back and captain Mark Gahey stated to the club that he was not renewing his contract and would be leaving next summer. This pretty much forced Palace to entertain offers in January, as they didn't want to lose their captain and star defender for absolutely nothing. And this all triggered Crystal Palace 9/11. After only 2 combined seasons, the manager who gave Palace and its faithful the greatest days of their lives had already grown tired of the typical Palace transfer policy of selling their best players unless it's Wilfried Zaha. While this definitely caught many off guard during the worst possible timing imaginable, this wasn't exactly that surprising, because the dynamic between Glasner and Palace was never gonna work in the first place. When it came to Palace, due to their financial situation, they had to look at things more in a long-term sense, while Glasner is more of a short-term immediate success guy, which is now pretty evident looking at his current tenure and the previous one in Frankfurt. Still though, it sucks to hear that kind of news when your team only a few months ago was seeing the greatest days in its history. But hey, at least Glasner was staying for the remainder of the season. Yeah, so up to this point, I've given the club the benefit of the doubt. But here they just straight up blindsided Oliver Glasner. This guy was told at 10:30 in the morning, a day before their game versus Sunderland, that their captain Mark Gahey was being sold. Could they have not waited until like after the game? It's not like this move happened around deadline day. They still had around like 15 days to make something work. I mean, that was just a genuinely insane decision by the club, considering all the different complaints that the manager had expressed not even 72 hours prior. But the magnitude of this insanity increases tenfold when you consider Crystal Palace's dog shit death, which the club had known about for the last few months. And it had gotten so bad to the point that versus Sunderland, they had to put up a bunch of deadwood and a kid born in 2009 on the bench. But going back to the manager, to say that the manager was a little upset about the situation would be quite an understatement.
Do you feel there will be proper transfer activity this window?
I don't know. Again, I heard yesterday at 10:30, I heard the first time that we are selling Mark. And I think the negotiations were a few days long, so nobody would have called at 10, and at 10:30 this was, everything was agreed. So, and then we have to deal with it. Yeah. One day before a game, going here to Sunderland, we know we are not in the best run. We know all the circumstances. We have no players available, and we are selling our as captain. We have completely no understanding. I don't know. No team would do this. I've seen other teams, players play, and then the next day they are leaving. So we are selling the day before.
Guys, I don't think he wants to stay until the end of the season anymore. And there were definitely reports of Glasner wanting to leave even earlier, but it seems like Palace was able to fan those flames at least. But that's not stopped other players from expressing a desperate need to leave before this window, considering there will probably be a shit show in the 2026 summer window. 4 days after the loss versus Sunderland, striker Jean-Philippe Mateta told the club he wanted to leave after some clubs expressed interest. He's the club's current top scorer, by the way. Mateta almost got this wish with a move to Milan, but that's actually broken down just recently. It's almost certain, though, he will definitely leave at the end of the season now, and he probably won't be the only one, because unfortunately, this is the reality of being a lower mid-tier Premier League team, especially one with not the best finances. You'll have that moment of glory, say qualification for Europe, or hey, maybe you're lucky enough to win a trophy. But that's a brief vacation to escape, and the thing with vacations is that you'll eventually have to leave and meet reality again. In this case, reality is being pillaged by every single top 6 club imaginable. This all said though, Palace did make a profit from Gahey and Eze, so who have they used that money on? Brennan Johnson for 40 million, and Jorgen Strand Larsen for 55 million euros. Huh? To be fair, it would be kinda harsh to judge these players' stats based on only this season. Not all of it has been under their control, but you took 95 million straight out of the bank and spent that on 2 forwards who have scored a combined 3 goals? Huh? Needless to say, Palace's campaign next season could go one of 2 ways here. They return to the normal cycle of having someone rescue them in the second half of the season, or they find the right manager and continue to build upon this, I guess. But that's very much in question, considering Palace doesn't have the same resources and funds to be patient with a rebuild like this. And it's gonna especially be hard to find the right coach. Oliver Glasner was just lightning in a bottle. That shit does not happen very often. Not to mention, the sporting director we talked about also helped the club bring in Glasner, and he's now gone. So basically, whichever way this goes, it's gonna be a long few seasons for Crystal Palace, which I find pretty unfortunate because I've always had a soft spot for this club. I mean, there's the aforementioned Palace Career Mode series, but I also built Selhurst Park on Minecraft when I was like 15. I just always liked the players that this team signed, the vibes of the fans, the atmosphere. I don't know. Like, they're just a cool team, I guess. I will say one thing just to maybe give these Palace fans a little bit of hope, you know, these Palace fans that have experienced the most traumatic month of their lives. I think one of the signings this season, Jeremy Pino, could be something special. I feel pretty confident in saying that because I've always liked what I've seen from him at Villarreal. I mean, at age 18, this guy was looking smooth with it in the Champions League. So I don't think all hope is lost. And maybe there's some American bias here, but if Chris Richards stays, I think that's another player who could be stepping up big time for this club in the future. But what do you guys think? Are Crystal Palace fucked, very fucked, especially fucked, or is there some hope going forward? Let me know. And of course, a massive shout out to all our members, including Janos Balas, German Sayu 7, Jeremiah Owusu Ajimong, Django, Anazir Michaelomcom, Alex Rod, Kentra Gatra, Saint Terrence, Sylvia Citrus, Cheesebait, Winder Gel, Finn Likes Rugby More, Davox, The Portergeyser, Wise Orange, Polar Protos, Von Fan, Augustly Owl, Coney Wolves, Leakstab, Mutanai, Apollo, Thrilling ADT 13, Los Milos, La James Braun, Vasillo, Napside, Money Cash Host, Quantavious Pork, Lily Lover, Stewed Monk, Red Yellow, Fuxi, MX San, Harry Maguire's Left Toenail, Flaquito, Thierry Stotts, Kev C, Dominic Griffin, Kyler Kress, Mohammed Altanib, Niche, Patrick Barley, Raswood God 5, Raspberry Ale, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to become a member on the channel, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you want, follow my Instagram if you like, follow my Twitch. The Champions League games will be coming up, so, you know, I'll be doing watch-alongs for that because it's Arsenal in the knockouts, so that should be very exciting. Please, God, please, please don't make me suffer. But anyways, until then, I'll see you guys. You're still here? Oh, hold on 1 second. Hold on. Oh, fuck, that was a bad idea. Once again, guys, though, thank you so much for watching this entire series. If you just watched this video or all of the videos, it doesn't matter. I am so grateful for every single one of you guys. Anyways, I'll see you guys later.